So now we've made it to the final step of the process, that is the improve stage. This is where students in their groups or in whole group can talk about how to make things better for their prototypes and for their designs. Now, one thing I must say is that this can often be the most chaotic of all steps, because in a real classroom environment, this is not the only thing you're doing that day, right? So you're getting the kids ready for the next thing that they need to do, and so you're pressed for time, you're cleaning up materials, but I do want to make sure you understand this is a very important step. Don't skip this step. Make some time for it. Even if it's a small amount of time, always make some time for their improve stage. If you get a chance and you have time, have students share their prototypes if possible so they can see their creative solutions. Do a little gallery walk. What you'll find is that as students create solutions, each group typically does a different attempt. Very rarely do you have two groups do the exact same thing as each other, and so it's a great time to point out all the creative solutions and all the creative thinking that went into it, and also celebrate some of the failures. Talk about how some students or some groups, they didn't quite get there, and that's okay, because what they learned along the way about how things were created and how to work together was just as valuable as the actual success or non-success. The other thing I want to mention here is you see this little rapid prototyping mini loop. A lot of times this improve stage is embedded with the create stage. What I mean by that is as your students are creating their first attempts and they're not going well, they are improving as they go. So a lot of times you get this mini stage here where they create, improve, create, improve, create, improve, and they go back and forth as they do the task. And that's totally normal as you do this process. One thing you want to make sure of is not to let the same kids dominate the sharing and the conversation every time. So you're going to have some very verbal students that are upfront about that, but really try to identify those other students that may not be speaking up but are still really contributing a lot to the group and have some great ideas themselves. Really try to boost them up through this process. This is also a great time to heap praise on the process rather than the success. So you don't want to necessarily heap praise on all the kids that got it right. You want to talk about the process they went to and how they overcame those obstacles and how they worked together. That's the part that's valuable about this process. So just as an example, before we see the actual classroom example, these were the improved questions that Kim had attached to her lesson, and really these are questions that can be applied to just about any engineering task at the end. So as students are finished, if you got them in a whole group, they might be in line to go to Media Center or to go to art, but ask some of these questions to these kids and really pull out some of this information about what did they think went well, what made this hard, what made this challenging for you. If you could do it again, what would you do differently next time? If you could choose different materials, what kinds would you choose? Why would you choose those? What did you do when your group ran into problems? These are great questions to follow up with and ask students in this improve stage. And finally, just to back up just a second, in this improve stage, if you have a chance to redo this task, that can be a very powerful lesson. So after you finish the task and you've already done one class period of creation, if you can come back to it in the future, whether it's a week, 2 weeks, a month, and do the same task again, that can really show students that the process is ongoing and it will always improve even by repeating it. So they would go through the process again and the groups would be able to do much better with the work that they've done. All right, so that's the last step to learn about, the improve step. We're going to take a close look and see how it works out in the classroom, and then we'll go from there.